And attunement in the work with people and the work on yourself is quite an important aspect. The ability to attune to. So the attunement is connected also with 2 points. And the points are in the middle, behind the ear. Later on we're going to work a little bit with these points, but these points are called the attunement points. And like most points around the head, there are awareness points. They're connected with awareness and consciousness, or basically connected with perception itself. So being connected to the ears, when you kind of look close to it, what you see with humans, there is 2 little muscles where the points are on. They're very, very small, tiny muscles, not with everybody. There are some people who are able to wiggle their ears and they're using these muscles. But if you, for instance, look to horses as an example, horses are really able to kind of to move their ears around. They hear something and the ear is kind of moving towards what they hear. But not only towards what they hear, their ears are also moving towards what they are attuned to. So if you're riding a horse, it's a very good sign as at least one of the ears of the horse is moving into your direction. That means that the horse is attuned to you. That it's alert, that it knows that you're on its back. So in this attunement, in the first place, when you look at this attunement to sound, that's the most easy way to express what attunement really is about, but it's much more as only the attunement to sound. Mothers have this possibility in a whole school class of children who are all screaming to hear the voice of their child. When there's something going on with their child, they kind of pick it out. This is the attunement of hearing. We're able, at a reception or a party, to hear what the other person is saying and to filter out, basically, all the other noises. When you're deaf, this is much more difficult, especially when you have got a hearing aid. The hearing aid is interfering with our ability to attune. It brings in all the sounds equally loud. Happily, it's only interfering with the ability to attune to sounds. So that brings us to, when you attune to sounds, you listen to somebody who is talking, especially when there is a lot going on. Then, what is needed in the first place to really be able to listen is silence in your head. And stillness, or still in your heart. Calmness or emptiness in the physical body. So we need this emptiness, this calmness, silence, still, to be able to perceive. If there is an incredible turmoil going on inside your body, you cannot perceive anything. If you're overwhelmed by emotion or feeling, and we all know this, it's very difficult to perceive what's going on around yourself. So to be able to attune, which is kind of fine-tuning to a source, whatever source it is, this can be a source inside or a source outside, we need space inside. We need emptiness. And then we see that the ability to attune is part of our consciousness. Because the ability to attune is always subject-object. The object, we attune to a subject. What?
The opposite, actually.
Oh, the opposite. The subject, we, is attuning to the object. So part of attunement, and the importance of attunement, is that we can kind of, focus through attuning ourselves on certain dimensions. If we attune to another person, we can focus on the physical well-being of the person. We attune to the physical well-being of the person. Or we can focus on the thought patterns of the other person, which is another dimension. We can focus, attune to what's going on emotionally with the other person, which is another dimension again.
You say emotionally, physically, and what was the other thing you said? Mentally.
Mentally, the thought patterns.
Spiritual?
And the spiritual background of a person. And often what we do is that when a person is telling a story, we kind of follow with our attunement, our ability to attune the story of the other person, and then at a certain moment the person says some things, and we get attuned into this to deepen the conversation. And attunement, if we're able to do that, is enough. By attuning to when somebody is telling something, to part of what the person is saying, it's like an invitation to move more to the depth, because you meet the person there for the person on that subject. So basically, what's happening if we attune to a flower, the first thing is that we kind of, open ourselves up to get any impressions of the flower. And we attune to the vibration of the flower. That's a certain dimension, a certain vibration. So, what can happen when we attune to the flower is that at a certain moment there is kind of a flow of information, of communication, or a blend is coming forward between you and the flower. And if we let go at that moment of any attunement or any agenda, what could happen is that we have an experience of being one with the flower. But to find unity, we have to let go of the subject-object. And in this, we have to let go also of the attunement. The attunement kind of, dissolves itself in pure perception.
So I'm saying that unity is beyond subject, but also beyond object.
Yeah, if there is one, how could be there an object and a subject? Nobody is looking at anything. It's just one.
You lose yourself in the flower.
And the flower loses itself in you. And that's very beautiful to say it like this. You lose yourself. And then the question is, what of yourself do you lose in the flower? So where do you meet the flower? You meet the flower in which the flower and you are one. And so what you lose is the differences between you and the flower. This is what you let go of. And the biggest difference is what we call the person. What you think you are, or what you think you have to be. What you lose in unity is any conflict, any condition, any agenda. So when you look to the whole process of inner growth, there is different stadia we kind of need to move through, different stages we need to move through, or we're moving through. And the first stage is to learn to concentrate or to attune. Attunement and concentration, in a way, are very close together. If we read a book and we are not concentrated, it's almost impossible to read the book. So we really need to attune to a book, concentrate on the book to be able to read. And sometimes there's such a turmoil inside in our mind or in our body, in our feelings, emotions, that we're not able to read. You start to read and you're not able to keep your head with it. So then it's impossible to attune, to concentrate. So to be able to read a book, that means that we must be able to contain the information which is coming from the book towards us. We have to be receptive. So again, that brings forward the same thing. That means that there must be some kind of silence or emptiness, space, there to be able to receive the information. So for those who love to read, when you read for a long period, what you see is that your mind kind of becomes empty, although you read a lot. It becomes more silent in your head. And then what I remember from the days that I read a lot is then sometimes when you really read a lot, it's so silent in your head, and then you're a little bit bothered by the silence, so you start to fantasize, to imagine what you just read, to create some movement. Because otherwise it's too silent, you cannot fall asleep, it's so empty. So reading basically is an act which helps you to attune and which helps you to concentrate. So if we follow the story of the flower that I brought forward, so to attune to a flower is basically to concentrate on a flower. But not what we often do when we concentrate, because we don't really learn how to concentrate very well. As children we go to school and then, we have to concentrate on the teacher. But how do you concentrate? How do you concentrate on the teacher? By kind of looking at the teacher, that's the teacher, I have to follow the teacher, I see the teacher. That's not concentrating, it's kind of putting pressure. Concentration, much more, is an opening up, an ability to connect. So again, attunement comes forward. When we are relaxed, empty and spacious inside, it's much more easy to concentrate. If we force ourselves to concentrate, what we often do when we learn or when we have to concentrate, then basically we block. It's like a movement outside instead of an opening from the outside to come inside. So if we concentrate on the flower and we kind of, bring this big push towards the flower, nothing will happen. But if we concentrate on the flower in a way that we open up to the flower, we are receptive, attuned to the flower, the vibration of the flower, then something starts to happen. It's a magical moment, in the moment that we just attune to the feeling between our fingers, when we kind of, move our fingers over each other. Just attune to the feeling, see what happens. Very softly move your fingers over each other. You see, the moment you really feel the movement in your fingers, the head gets empty. You're not thinking. It becomes still. So this is the second stage. It's the stage which is called meditation. Meditation is connected with this still inside. So in attuning to a flower, what can happen is that we move into a meditation. We become receptive, still, inside. Our mind is silent, our heart is open. We don't imagine what the flower could be. We are pure receptive. And then what can happen is the third stage, which is called contemplation.
Can
So-
you say it in a different word?
I try to explain what I mean with contemplation. There is not a good other word, I know. But contemplation is basically that the borders between you and what you're contemplating are disappearing. It's a movement in which you very, very deeply move in the research, and I'm not saying only a mental research, but also a feeling research, not only of the object.
Say that again.
You move very deeply into a research of the object you're looking at. So you start to blend more and more deeply with the object. More and more details are received. If you contemplate your finger, you become more and more conscious and more aware of your finger. The inside, the outside. And contemplation automatically moves with stillness, or silence, or emptiness. So in a way, it's a deeper attunement and a refinement in which the subject and the object are coming very, very close. And then, when this moves more deeply, if we have a flower, then something magical happens. Because you contemplate the flower, the energy around the flower, what the flower is bringing forward, the quality of the flower, the softness of its petals, the smell. And then, at a certain moment, when you contemplate it deeply, a shift is happening, and this is almost magical in a way when you think about it. Then, at once, there is or can be a moment that you are one with the experience of the flower. The flower becomes alive. It's not subject-object anymore, but unity is coming forward. You experience what the flower is experiencing. At that moment, you're one with the flower. A unity is born. So, when you see all of this starts, basically the whole movement starts with creating space inside yourself. Letting go, step by step letting go. Letting go of imagination, of what you imagine that the flower will be. So attunement is a very beautiful way also to move beyond expectation, imagination. To move beyond projections. To open yourself up to attune what's really going on, what's really there. And when we open up to another person and you just follow what's happening, what's really going on, you maybe imagine that somebody is thinking something of you, but you're not sure. And you attune to the person, what does he really mean? And then there is this magical moment, which is the same as the flower, is that we fall back in something we cannot describe. We fall back in something which is always there, but we cannot describe. There is not a perception there. It's like it's black for a moment. Nothing is there for a moment. No perception is there for a moment. And then at once there is an understanding, born from that. And this understanding, what's going on in the other person, if you follow this very slowly, you're kind of in the unperceivable, the unknowable. And then there is a moment of unity, and then there is subject-object again, and there is an understanding. You understand what's going on in the other person. So we're moving through daily a lot of times. In quick circles, it goes very quick. We hardly perceive what's happening, what we're doing, but we're doing it all the time basically. Asking a question. Before you get the answer, if you ask a question, you have to let go of the question. If you look for scissors, the only way to find the scissors is to let go for a moment of finding the scissors. Then there's this magical moment, a magical moment that we are not there in a way. The unperceivable, the unknowable. That. What's beyond perception. And then there is a moment of unity. And then there is understanding. You recognize what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for the scissors, you cannot find them, so there's no answer, and you let go for a moment, and at once there is this kind of almost this feeling where the scissors are. It's like you feel the scissors, you experience the scissors. The difference between you and the scissors is gone, and through this you get the location. You recognize?
Mm-hmm.
And then at once it's you and the scissors again. This intimate moment is gone.
Sometimes it comes at sleep.
Yeah,
Or before falling
asleep.
asleep.
Yeah,
Just, I know, I see it.
yeah,
It's there.
yeah. That's partly because we go to sleep. What we do is we let go. We let go of the person, we let go of the agendas, we let go of a lot of things to fall asleep. We have to let go of the mind. So the whole ability to attune becomes very important when we are working with people in order to be able to diagnose what the hell is going on. If a client is coming to you and says, I cannot sleep, I got sleepless nights. So that's a fact, I cannot sleep. So what can we do with I cannot sleep? Take a sleeping tablet. The amount of information in I cannot sleep is very restricted. So the first question is, so what's the matter then? So you could ask a question, so what's happening when you're falling asleep, to get more information? This is a way. But you can also attune to the person who clearly is in a despair because he cannot fall asleep. And when we attune, we get a story. If we're able to attune to the despair that the person cannot fall asleep, we get the story. We get the story of the despair. What's happening? And the questions you can ask then are much more refined, much more attuned to the person. If we're less attuned to the person, the answers we will give is, oh, sometimes I cannot fall asleep either. Everybody has sometimes a difficulty to fall asleep. It must be very disquiet inside you. So the more we get attuned, the more refined we are able to move into what the person is bringing forward. The more information we are getting. And then we have these little shocks when we are attuned to a person that we really get it. You can call it an intuition, or you can call it diagnosis. You experience exactly what the person is experiencing at that moment, and you get it. Ah, this is what she means by I cannot fall asleep. This is what's happening. Then there's an understanding. And from the understanding, you can support the other person to come to a deeper understanding what's maybe needed to more easily fall asleep. When you attune to the liver of somebody, you can feel what's going on in the liver. If the liver is healthy, if the liver is functioning. And tricks for that, for instance in acupuncture, is that you feel the wrist. But the wrist is giving some information, but the wrist is a beautiful way also to attune to a certain organ. You feel something and then the fine-tunement is starting. And you get more information as you can only get from the pulse. It's pure attunement, concentration. This only works when you're empty and when you really connect with the other person or the liver of the other person. And there is sometimes this moment, that magical moment, that you become the liver of the other person. And then you understand, then you know. You disappear for a moment in the liver of the other person. And the you who's disappearing is the person. You let go of your person at that moment. The agendas.